Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. You can ask questions in the comments or using the hashtag Qbate, that's QBATE, on Twitter. If you need any more advice, you can also join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community on Facebook, where there's accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. Or you could visit the QuickBooks website for their sort of dedicated COVID-19 information area. Just scroll down the site and look under the header, Support for You and Your Business During COVID-19. My name's Alex Schlagman. I'm one of the founding partners of SaveTheHighStreet.org. We're an industry-wide movement on a mission to ensure the success of UK high streets. We're running a series of programs up and down the UK to support high street businesses and local community champions, and ultimately work towards making sure that our high streets are diverse, vibrant, thriving, and successful both now and for the future. Now, clearly, we're in the most transformational period in the entire history of high streets. Independent businesses, large businesses, landlords, local government stakeholders, all people who are impacted and influencing the high street are being heavily impacted by the coronavirus. And last time I was on last month, we spent a bit of time focusing in on, what are the different things that SaveTheHighStreet.org are doing at the moment. I'll just give you a very quick flavor before we get into the questions. If you were to join SaveTheHighStreet.org's newsletter, you can get regular tips and advice, that are focused around what you could be doing to improve your business, improve your high street, advice from experts, businesses, local community champions to support you in your endeavors, whether it's on the business level or the place level. There's also next week, for anyone who joins the SaveTheHighStreet.org community, there's going to be a release of a health check, which is going to be a free health check tool that allows you to get a view about what are your key vulnerabilities, what are your key opportunities, what are the things that you could be doing in your business right now to have an impact, and how are you doing? Where are your biggest threats at the moment? We're also running an end-to-end 12-week support program. It's like a real accelerator. We look at everything that you could be doing in your business to make sure you're set up to succeed on the high street through this period and give yourself the best chance of success and achieving your potential. On that program, you can find out more at SaveTheHighStreet.org, but you can also visit joinjo.com. That's joinjo.com to register. And every single week we've got a new intake of high street businesses joining this 12-week accelerator program. So maybe hopefully see you there as well. Before we get into the questions, and to give yourself a bit of a chance to ask some of the questions you might have around, the high street businesses, what it takes to succeed on this new coronavirus era high street, I'd like to shine a light on 6 of the key goals that every independent high street business needs to be thinking about and focusing on through this period. So the first of these is about reducing your costs. So really everyone needs to be thinking about, what can I be doing to give myself a little bit of extra runway, a little bit of headroom, a little bit of space to plan, and give myself some financial room to maneuver. And this covers all your direct and indirect costs. Some of the big things that we're looking at on the 12-week support program and through our research are your rent. So what are you doing to negotiate with your landlords to set up a new agreement moving forward? Try and get beyond just a deferral and start to think about, actually, I really need, if I have been impacted by the coronavirus and my sales have been hit, how do I try and secure a better agreement, or sometimes quite a different agreement, maybe tying your revenues or your turnover into your rent? Other key things on the cost side of things to think about are negotiating with your suppliers, making sure that you've got the best deal possible on all your utilities bills, really understanding, across your whole mix of costs, am I spending money on the right places? Second thing to be thinking about is around selling in new ways. So lots of things I'll just quickly list out here, making sure that you're set up to take payments, whether it's your own e-commerce website, and it's simpler than ever to set up online, selling through third-party marketplaces and thinking beyond just the main tier marketplaces to the second tier marketplaces with often lower commission structures, even if they have lower levels of volume of sales. And then start to think as well about your social media platforms, which also can take native payments, have native checkouts. Then on the other side of it, how do you fulfill that demand? Local delivery, click and collect, curbside pickups, online experiences, online services, lots of different things you can be doing to fulfill the demand from your customers remotely as well. Thirdly, I think you should be thinking about adapting your marketing for lockdown, still engaging with your existing customers. And there's a whole bunch of top tips we can share with you around the things you could be doing to engage existing customers and win new customers through the lockdown period. Fourth area is around collaboration. So what could you be doing to collaborate with your neighbours? And again, loads of great examples across the UK of high streets working better together on high street level solutions, whether it's around loyalty, delivery, click and collect, new care offerings for the community, lots of stuff going on that we're seeing and we're shining a light on at the moment. Fifth area is around preparing for the future, from training up your team to making sure you've got the insight that you need to really evaluating, are there opportunities to evolve my offering in new ways? Is there an opportunity to not just adapt, but maybe even pivot the kind of products and services that I offer based on all the changes that are going on? In every single crisis, there's opportunity. And at the moment, there's a whole bunch of new consumer needs that are emerging. And you should be thinking about, what could I be doing to serve my customers and using my brand to really adapt to the new environment and the new normal. And then the sixth area is around funding and financing for your business. So this is about thinking about the government initiatives, but also starting to think about what are the things that you could be doing beyond just the civil scheme, beyond just looking at bounce back loans, and really understand, could I be running a crowdfunding campaign with my community? Are there ways that I can better manage my cash flows to give myself an extra bit of runway, to manage my debtors and my creditors better? What could I be doing? Now, all of those 6 areas are things that we've spent a lot of time doing research on over the last 2 months. We run an intensive research project with dozens of high street businesses and industry experts across our High Street Advisory Board at SaveTheHighStreet.org. And now that's all been baked into the 12-week program of support that we provide through joinjoe.com. But if you have any questions that are sort of on the tip of your tongue right now, obviously we can focus in on any one of those areas. And I'm starting to see some of these questions coming in. So maybe I'll start to jump into the first one. Okay. So I've got a question here from Akira from Twitter. I have a small clothing store, and we've had loyal customers and good cash flow. Now we had to close down, and I realize we've been a bit late to adapt to the digital world. What do you think should be our first steps into that world? I want my business to come out of this stronger with a good plan for the future. So thanks for your question, Akira. From a perspective of the first steps forward from here, I think it's really important to recognize that regardless of whatever stage in the journey you are from an e-commerce point of view, the first step is really about just understanding, how can I start to take payments? And this is a broad response to anybody listening in as well. There are very, very simple ways for you to offer remote selling opportunities for your customers without even having a setup on an e-commerce site or on a marketplace. You can be, taking payments on the phone and via email. And that's fine to think about, for a lot of businesses. But if you have already taken that step to close down your store and become fully online, I think you should be taking the first step towards actually setting yourself up on one of the e-commerce platforms. Now, depending on what your business goals are, what stage of business you're at, we'd recommend different levels of platforms. There's some really simple sort of DIY setup platforms. that people can take advantage on. There's others where you be able to get a lot more customization into building an e-commerce platform, but you might well need to get the support of a specialist developer, maybe on Magento or another platform. But I do think this is the time for you to start to think about your online brand. And if you're going to do that, you're going to need to have your own online presence and your own e-commerce platform. So first things first, make sure that you're set up to sell online. I think the second thing to be thinking about, once you've developed, your own online brand, from a perspective of your website, you've got your content up there, you're really trying to bring to life what makes you different and better. And I think this is a really important point for Akira and anybody listening in here as well, is that when you're in the e-commerce and distance selling space, and you're not just about serving the local to local community, you have to really understand, have you got a product offering here which is differentiated? Because if you're in a marketplace, a global marketplace where you're trying to sell to everybody, and you have a homogenized product, the same product as what everybody else is offering, you'll be outcompeted on price by organizations that have bigger scale advantages to you. So I think one of the first things you need to be thinking about with your fashion retail proposition is, can I develop something that's unique? Even if it's not completely unique, can I put a unique slant on it or offer unique services aligned with that product that differentiate me, that mean that I can't be compared like for like on a price comparison site? Think along those lines. Then I would be thinking about, from your point of view, about getting your online presence set up. So there's a number of things you could be doing here, basically in terms of making sure that you've got your directory listings owned and you've got the right information on all of those places, that you've got a clear social media strategy around how you're going to produce content and engage with customers. A lot of sort of basic 101 stuff that we can share with you about marketing from an online presence point of view. But I do think, just to finalize on your point here, Akira, with regards to closing down your store at the moment, I think where we're at, a really interesting point and a sort of position for the high street generally, is that we're in a world where historically people have been expected to make long-term commitments to every single space that they move into. And I think right now it might well be this pivotal moment where we see a lot more flexibility in the lease arrangements between landlord and tenant moving forward. And we need to enable this at really the sort of much more sort of central level. This can't just be pushed onto the landlords directly. Ultimately, there's an opportunity for the high street to be much more flexible, much more pop-ups type space. So one thing I definitely recommend for you to think about is, are there opportunities for you to be in a physical space, even if it is for 3 weeks here, 2 months there, 3 months there, and start testing out new physical areas where you might be in to help you build that brand, engage with customers directly. But the final point I'll mention to you, Akira, is if you've got a good base of loyal customers already, make sure that you've got GDPR compliance to be able to engage with those customers and start communicating with them to tell them what you're up to through the journey. Okay, so we've got other questions coming in here. I think we've got Susie from Twitter. I think hygiene and social distancing will still be an issue for high street stores even after lockdown ends. How do you go about, and who awards hygiene standards for my shop? I've never really thought about it too much, considering I don't sell food. Okay, Susie, so we're looking at this end-to-end at the moment. There's a whole bunch of things that are going to be in this high street health check we're releasing next week. It's going to be a sort of checklist of things that you've got to be thinking about in terms of the new hygiene standards for the store. A couple of the things I think just to be aware of. One of them, this isn't just about the spread of coronavirus. It's actually about the conversion of people walking down the street and feeling comfortable coming into your store. So we're looking at getting hand sanitizers set up so they can be at the door, and people can actually can see very clearly that they can actually wash their hands and clean their hands before they come into the store. Also, it's very important that there's regular cleaning of all touch points through your store through the day, and we've got a whole checklist of these things: point of sales, doors in and out, all kinds of stuff going on there. There's a need for a lot of businesses to think about the user experience in the store from a social distancing point of view. So as restrictions are lifted, what we're still going to see is and need for social distancing in the physical store. And while we're thinking about this, there's a number of different measures that you're starting to see with essential businesses. We might see often where they're providing a limited number of people in the store. Sometimes they've got sort of demarcation points where you can see that you can only be standing a certain distance from somebody else in a queue. But ultimately, Susie, it's an evolving space. It's something that we're actually releasing more information on next week in the High Street Health Check. And there are some initial guidance from government on this as well, on the government guidance website for small businesses. Okay, so I've got a question here from Michael from Facebook Messenger. Okay, so Michael asks, me and my team are currently working on a post-lockdown strategy, and it'd be interesting to hear your view on how you think the new high street landscape will look like. What do you believe will be the main challenges stores should have in mind? For our own store, we're already set up on digital with social media and an online service. What we're discussing a lot is how to keep staff and customers safe in the store. So firstly, Michael, obviously the hygiene related points I just mentioned to Susie are obviously relevant here as well. So a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be considered there. I think what we're going to sort of need to see here as well, beyond just businesses preparing for an environment where people are expecting to need to see better hygiene standards in place and to see consideration of that in every business that they visit. I think we're going to see a changing consumer habit towards an expectation that you will have a virtual offering, not just in terms of e-commerce, not just in terms of fulfilling your product retail offer through delivery, but also increasingly, and we're a great example of this, in terms of virtual service. So one of the big things we're looking at here is, we're in this world now where a lot of us have been on Zoom, we've been engaging in webinars, we've been using social media to interact with our friends in ways that we used to interact face to face. And what we're expecting more and more is that businesses on the high street really need to be thinking about, can I be providing a high quality, almost in the store level of service to my customers, an experience without my customers necessarily being there over the next few months. And we're seeing lots of great examples coming through from our research that we're starting to feed out and test with businesses on our 12-week program, around sort of virtual sales support, with you and your sales team actually providing that support on video conference calls, looking at experiences and 3D walkthroughs in new ways, and how can you actually bring the store to life without physically being there. So I think this idea of the local world being remote but in physically round the corner, I think is going to become a more important context for the high street as we move forward. The other thing I think we'll start to see, even more so than what we've seen over the last couple of years, is the need for high streets to really come together and collaborate on offerings where they work better together. We need to have a strong local community champion on every single high street that's really doing their bit to bring together the businesses to collaborate in new ways and to give the local community a reason to not have to leave that local area and visit the town centre around the corner, or to go into Oxford Street to do their shopping. We need to find ways to make your local high street that place for your local community to want to shop. And we're going to see that more and more. Okay, so I've got a question here from Jenny from Facebook Messenger. We have a core group of loyal customers, and to gain new ones and keep our loyal customers, I've been thinking about setting up a loyalty scheme. Do you have advice on what I should be thinking about? Okay, Jenny. So again, from a generic point of view, I mean, with loyalty, there are some generic recommendations, but it really helps to get into the detail. Firstly, there's a lot of areas around the UK, places around the UK, where we're looking at loyalty as a sort of place level thing. So if you are a high street business and you're working with us, sometimes we're looking at your particular area. What's the right loyalty solution for Sunderland Town Centre? For Barnes, for Bristol, wherever you are. What's the right solution for you? And sometimes it's a sort of mix of solutions. And one of the challenges we've had in the loyalty space is a lot of the loyalty apps and services that have been out there have sort of done well, but not really reached critical mass. We haven't got a big winner in the space that every consumer knows if they go and shop on this loyalty app, they're going to get loyalty points and rewards. So there's quite a lot of fragmentation in the space. So what we're trying to do is support the right mix of loyalty solutions for the right areas and really get them working on a place level. But there's also loyalty level solutions at the business level. And again, this is often very custom too, depending on your physical and your online presence and your goals and what you're trying to do. But ultimately, loyalty is not just about getting a platform in. Loyalty is a much broader concept than this. And I think what you need to be thinking about from a loyalty point of view is that, ultimately you need to give your customers reasons to sort of come on a journey with you, a journey that you very clearly defined. And this is the more strategic part of loyalty. Really understand what is that customer journey from someone being aware of you to someone being an advocate that is selling your business as passionately as you are. What are those steps? And how do you understand where your customers are and reward them to come through those steps in the journey? Okay, I've got other questions coming in, so I've got to keep moving. So we've got Ben from Facebook Messenger. How do you think I could be most proactive with my customers, even whilst my shop remains closed? I run a wine shop that sells bespoke bottles you may not find in the local Tesco, etc. So a really good question, Ben. And I think one of the first things that we really came out with when we started and kicked off the high street research back in March around what can businesses be doing to succeed on the coronavirus era high street is we looked at what will marketing look like at different stages of lockdown and when furlough starts to come in, different levels of furlough as well. And one of the key things, the key foundations is working with those existing customers, those existing loyal customers, to keep them updated about what you're doing right now and what you're offering, what you're able to offer, even if it's not you're not able to open your store physically. Are you able to set up a remote offering in some way for your local customers? Your local loyal customers know that they can't get those same wines in Tesco, and actually, right now, you can be there for them. And if you're there for them right now, they'll be there for you on the other side. So, in terms of engaging with your customers, emails, if you haven't already started kicking off working with a newsletter and engaging your customers on a relatively regular basis, now is the perfect time to update them about what you're doing, how you're doing. You're part of the local community as well. People want to hear how you're getting on, how you're coping with this. And can you shine a sort of wine lens on this? Can you put a bit of humor into this? Can you give people a little bit of something respite from the boredom that some people are being dealt with at the moment? And can you, in some way, provide them your offering without them physically needing to be there? The other thing I'd be thinking about as well, if you're not already active on social channels, clearly this is a time to be setting up and making sure that all of your existing customers know that you're available on Facebook, you're available on Twitter, you're posting on Instagram, and you're there to converse with them as well. So I think one of the first things we looked at was how can you really market yourself during this period? And before thinking about winning new customers, it's really important to think about those existing loyal customers and how you can serve them. The other thing I just mentioned as well, there's a lot of different ways of offering local delivery. It doesn't necessarily have to be you moving things from A to B. Ben, if you want to sort of drop us a line and find out a little bit more about some of the local delivery offerings that might be available in your area, whether it's about joining a third-party app or whether it's about setting up your own service so that your customers know they can order from you and get things into their hands on certain times of the week or even on demand within half an hour. depending on what you're looking to do and where you are. Okay, so I've got Carla from Facebook. Super interesting to hear about the 6 goals and foundations. Thanks, Carla. How do you believe businesses will be founded in the future and new real world? So, I mean, I'll interpret this question. I'm not sure if I've interpreted it right, and drop me a line afterwards. Everyone listening in as well. My email is alex@savethehighstreet.org. And, if you have any direct questions, feel free to drop me a line anytime, or just go on to savethehighstreet.org and drop the team a line, and we'll get back to you. But my interpretation of this question, Carla, is how will businesses be founded? How will businesses set up in the future? I think this is quite an interesting question. I mean, I was on a call yesterday with a small business minister. We're talking about what are the sort of things, what are the things we can be doing to mentor businesses better, existing businesses better. One of the key points I think we're going to be talking a lot about in the next couple of months, once we've got through this period, once our 12-week program and other support programs are really set up and firing, and businesses are getting through the period, and we're really making sure that we've got a real sort of army of successful local independent high street businesses powering this high street of the future. Is the next question is, how do we make it easy for businesses to set up on the high street of the future? And this goes back a little bit to one of the points I was making earlier about, is it going to be a situation where businesses are expected to commit for a 5-year lease in the future? And, I think there should be the option for that. But I think a lot of what we're going to see in the future is that businesses should be able to set up and test an offering on the high street as easily almost as you can test an offering online. At the moment, you could spin up an online business in an hour. You should be able to go and test a local physical premise as quickly as setting up your first e-commerce store. And we want to help build those tools and build that infrastructure so that wherever you want to go and test, you should be going thinking about, what you could be doing, to not just make a long-term commitment for an area, but to go and found your business and be a business that's online and offline and flexible to move as quickly as you're able to do online. So I think that's one of the big things that we're talking a lot about, sort of in the background for the next phase of support once we've got out of the coming weeks. I've got a question here from Cheryl. This might be the last one. So I've got, are there any useful online blogs or podcasts you can recommend for small businesses right now? Yeah, lots of, there's lots of good stuff out there. I think this is one of the things that's really shone a light over the last couple of months is how a lot of the communities sort of come together to sort of produce good educational content. But from our point of view, we've launched our own podcast at savethehighstreet.org. You can check it out. What we've started by focusing on is 1-minute tips and ideas, quick ideas from high street businesses, from experts, about like specific things that you can get, inspiration you can get for your business. So, I mean, clearly there's specific things that savethehighstreet.org is doing, but we're also curating a lot more as well. And I'm aware that we've got to wrap up now, but if you join the newsletter, go to savethehighstreet.org and join the newsletter, one thing we share is regular resources about what other people are doing and shine a light on the good work that's going on in terms of content resources elsewhere. I've got a wrap up coming shortly. And I think I'm almost out of time. I really hope this has been super useful for everyone. In terms of the wrap up, quick shout out to the Intuit team. If you could send me what the wrap up content is, so that I know what's happening for next week, I'll communicate with everyone. I think one of the things that's going on is every day QuickBooks Intuit are providing this content with a different expert speaker, but because tomorrow morning is the bank holiday, there isn't another speaker. So what we've got is I think the next speaker coming in is on Monday morning. And we'll have Aaron Patrick, who's head of accounting at Bofix, and he's also a UK Intuit QuickBooks certified trainer. So make sure to log on from 8:30 to 9 a.m. on Monday. Obviously, have a fabulous weekend in the meantime. And if you need more advice, you can join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community on Facebook. There's accountants and business experts on hand 24/7. You can join savethehighstreet.org or joinjoe.com, or any of the resources provided by Intuit. And make sure you stay positive and have a fabulous weekend. Thank you very much.